So time is our most precious and valuable asset. It's the only thing we can't get back. Once it's gone, it's gone.
It is Entrepreneurs, the Playbook, and I'm here with the master of time, Stephen Griffith. He wrote a book. I had to have him on the Playbook because number one, it's my favorite subject, and two, he had such a unique perspective. The Time Cleanse. Got to check it out. Same publisher as my book coming out.
Awesome.
McGraw-Hill.
Awesome. Yeah.
So you can't beat it. All right. So I had to have you on because I think the time is the cornerstone to everything if you want to manifest what you want or live a life of success, of fulfillment, profit. It's all based off of one dependent variable, how you perceive time.
Yep.
And so my first question is, how do you perceive time?
So time is our most precious and valuable asset. It's the only thing we can't get back. Once it's gone, it's gone. So for me, I perceive time in the moment, what I call in a concept of timefulness. So being present in the moment, intentional, aware, and absolutely here right now. And when we do that, we can manifest with intention, radical changes in our universe, our environment, and our relationships. But it's all about being present in the moment.
And how do you distinguish between the man-made construct of time, 24 hours in a day,
right,
with that productivity, accessibility, et cetera, and the relativity of time, the infinity of time?
Well, that's an awesome question. I can tell you're well versed on this. So in the book, I talk about Einstein's quote. And there's a famous quote where he says, "A minute on a hot stove feels like hours. Hours with your beloved feels like minutes." And that's the relative aspect of how present we are again. Once again, there's calendar time. And for most humans, we get caught up on calendar time, or things are going to take a certain amount of time. But we know when we manifest and are present in the moment, we can compress and accelerate the results by being present and being, as his theory of relativity is really being in the moment. We can alter the experience of it.
Right. By being in spirit, connected to that which inspires us, being with our beloved or anything that we love shifts our perception of the time.
Yep.
Although you also believe in the book Time Cleanse that your calendar, your pragmatic calendar, is essential in understanding how to live your life.
Yeah, and this is the thing that's happening with people is that we're so distracted today, Dave. We got 24/7 connection to technology. I talk about it in the book. Technology is one of the greatest stealers of our time and the biggest wasters of our time. So really what it's about is getting focused on what matters most. And if you want to get focused on what matters most, you've got to have a calendar. Otherwise, the natural rhythm of life today is so fast. And that's why when I did the research for the book, it really came down to that, in our modern way of using time, old time management strategies don't work because we are so fast with time and so connected to technology. We've got to upgrade our thinking and we've got to be present and we've got to use that calendar. The calendar is like the GPS. So in our modern time, we've got to have it. We've got to, otherwise we're going to get taken off course.
That's amazing. And it's interesting because you point out the phone itself as being the biggest black hole of time.
Yes.
And, being able to really suck in our attention of what should be utilized for important things. What are some of the techniques I know you gave in the Time Cleanse about how to utilize your phone, which also could have your calendar on it?
Right.
So what suggestions do you have for the phone?
So one of the big suggestions is grayscale it right away. Turn that phone from color to black and white right away. It'll make the phone less charming. Then take all your apps, move them to the second screen. And then lastly, turn all the notifications off. And I know your listeners, some of them are cringing, right? No, I can't do that. But here's the thing. We got to be in charge of our time. We've got to be intentional. And that device is the closest thing to us all the time. One of the pieces of research I quote in the book is that we touch, click, swipe, and look at that phone 2,600 times a day.
Whoa.
2,600. That's not in a week. That's in a day. So that's one of the things we got to get control back of. But we also got to get control of what's important. And I know your work and how much you've given to other people in your life. I know that's a big part of who you are, your philanthropy. And so much of our time is being distracted. We're not taking the time to actually say, okay, what's important with my family, my business, and then invest in it. But most importantly, not looking at is what I call the time cleanse question. what is contributing or contaminating to my success and happiness. And that's what the cleanse does. It looks at everything in your business where you spend your time, everything you do personally, and asks that question. When we ask that question, that's how we reclaim the time to invest what matters.
Would you suggest that people actually schedule time to pay attention to their phone?
Absolutely. So, once again, it's a great point. It's not we're eliminating. It's like, okay, here's on my calendar a time. Here's 10 minutes. Let me check my messages. Let me check my emails. Let's be intentional. You'll hear me use that word a lot. I know you do. Intentional with how we're using the phone, not just randomly picking it up, because those things are designed to hijack us.
Right. And I know you have the same as me, an experiential view of the world. And for example, memories are very important for you.
Yes.
And these experiences that are
Yes.
tied to your memories are much more important. I think one of the things I read in here is about, no one on their deathbed is like worried about how many Facebook followers or something like that they have, right?
Yes. You're exactly right about that, is that no one's going to say, hey, man, I wish I got 2 more Instagram posts or wrote another Facebook on your deathbed. But they are going to think about the memories they made. And so for me, ultimately, this book, as well as being a great productivity and performance book, it's about creating memories with time that become our legacy. And there's a whole section in the book about legacy. How are we going to leave this place better? And are we being relevant? Are we making a difference with our time for ourselves, connecting to our gifts and talents, but then bringing it to the collective for others?
And speaking of the collective, I think it's important because you have such a fresh perspective of not projecting your own views of time and your own views of the phone, et cetera. So I'll give you an example of something when I was reading this that I thought of, man, you know what, this is exactly what he's talking about. And then maybe you can give me some feedback. One of the things that I realized that I hang out with high actualizing people. They're highly effective. They're successful, what I call profitable, passionate, and purposeful about their existences. The difficulty that I have about having those types of friends is that when we get a group of us together, a collective, it's difficult to have that experiential connection because everyone has their phone. Yep. And they're looking down, and so you're into individual types of things, and it always, I felt, detracted from what could be an exceptional experience if I could get everyone to stay present.
Yep.
But I also realized that if I require all my friends, when they come to dinner with me,
Yes.
to not be on their phone, the opportunity cost would be too great.
Yeah, I think there's a balance.
Well, let me tell you what I do. That's good.
Go ahead.
Because I thought there was a balance. So what I decided to do, because this is what you were talking about, having this balance, was I decided, okay, if we have a group of guys that go to dinner, everyone puts their phone into the middle of the table. If you have to pick up your phone, you now have at least a portion of the bill, depending on who else has it.
I love it.
So
I
at
love
least it's encouraging all of us. And if you're going to give up an opportunity cost, because, when you go with 8 guys to dinner, everybody fights over the bill anyway.
Yep.
So now what I think is really fun is guys start bargaining because maybe 2 or 3 guys every meal have to take their phone.
Right.
So they're splitting it 2 or 3 ways. But then a lot of them, they just wanted to check one thing and they'll negotiate back in and say, hey, if I put it back in, can I just pick up an 8th? Right? But go ahead, talk about balance and what that circumstance does.
But I like that, because here's the thing that you're doing, and I love that strategy. You're getting people intentional about their actions. Most people are operating from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed on autopilot. They're hijacked. Their phones tell them what to think, do, drive, look. I mean, it's pre-selecting. So I love that idea because
gives you fake news too.
Yeah, and so exactly, and so you don't even know what's real.
Right.
So I talk about in the book the Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, my favorite.
And Napoleon Hill, when he had that conversation with the devil, the devil said, "Well, to outwit me, you have to be thinking for yourself." And he said 99 out of 100 people aren't thinking for themselves, is what the devil said. So Napoleon Hill said, well, how do we outwit you? The devil said, well, you just got to think for yourself. Well, if you think about our life today, that phone, I know we're talking about the phone a lot, is thinking for us.
Which makes sense, though, because today the phone is a hub of our intention for time. Like you said, it's everything that we do. Now, you use the word intention, which I think is very powerful, because I believe that the power of intention and the field of intention are 2 things that are definitely part of time. And also harness the true source of what we want.
Yes.
So, right, if we put our intent on something and we put our faith, which I believe is an aggregate of what we think, say, do, believe, and the unconscious competencies of our genetics and energetics. But if we put our intent there, how can we utilize time to really harness the power of intention?
I love that question, because here's the thing.
Very few people probably ask you that one.
Well, no, yeah, this is really great, because so in the book, I make a distinction about goals and intention. So goals are future oriented with time. So I want to lose 20 pounds. Awesome. So that's the future. The intention is in real time. We can wake up and create an intention today that we are vibrating by every thought, emotion, action. So by setting intention, so if someone's going to lose 20 pounds, the intention is I eat my food every 3 hours, I'm mindful of my water intention, and I have a healthy body. That is a renewable source in the moment of time. Goals future, intentions now. And many people miss that. And the research shows that people that set intentions, either general or specific, have an up to 40% greater chance of hitting their goals just by that.
Over 40%.
Yes.
And what's amazing too is I believe that happiness, which is the key to life, and one of my main goals in life is to empower others to be happy.
Yep.
Because, my biggest shocker lately is that under 50 years old, the number one cause of death in America is suicide. And so I'm on a mission to make people happy.
Yep.
But what I find interesting is I believe happiness is defined as the enjoyment of the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of our potential or truth. Listening to that, I believe you cannot have discipline, habits, or consistency, which is the most valuable thing in order to effectuate intention without understanding time. Why is that?
Well, let me unpack that.
Yeah.
Because
most people have to unpack all my questions.
Yeah, well,
Robert Wool said, "Are you kidding? You get paid for this with a question like that?"
So when it all comes down, I was in Chicago. I did an interview with Jared Payton, and I knew his father, Walter. I got to train with him when I was in college. Amazing man.
You're a Western Michigan guy.
Yeah. And so, he asked me about time in athletes. I said, time is your most valuable commodity as an athlete. It's where you invest it. And so to your question is that we've got to be intentional of who we're being. So it's being, doing, and having. I'm going to say that again. Being, doing, and having is what our life is. And many people are missing the being part. And so when I reflect that question, it's who am I being with my time, intentional, and then what am I actually doing to have the life that I want, which includes happiness. And I think it's the one thing that I'm on a mission. So my mission is to change, how people view time. It's the most important relationship we have, because without a positive relationship with time, we're not really being able to engage in having the time. And this is the one thing I saw in my research, is that people have an adversarial relationship with time. Time comes from us, Dave. And by our yeses and nos, I talk about the time excuse diet. I said, people need to get on the diet of not using the excuse of time and make choices. Because when you have a positive relationship with time, which time is here for us, it's for us. Most people are battling it. And that's my mission, to change the view of time.
That's awesome, because I think in that perspective, when you change the view of time, you could have simple shifts like I get to do this instead of I have to do this.
Great language.
Right, which is a time issue. Another issue with time for me is related to faith, believe it or not, is that I put faith in what I want, meaning I look at time and say, I want to be as productive and accessible with my time as I can. That's the lens that I use. I want to provide as much value, but I also want to be as accessible to others to share the experiences and the memories, and also be able to access what I want, the being, the having what I want, etc. Well, within the respect of time, most people, when they think of time, they separate it by two major activities. Right? I don't believe in work, so I divide my time into activity I get paid for and activity I don't get paid for, because the energy of this pragmatic place of being, having, and doing is the more money I have, right? The more money I have, the more I can do and be, right? It's just, so for me, if I look at time and say, okay, my goal of time is to have as much activity as I can that I get paid for, and and then there's activity I don't. With that in mind, how do people get confused with the relationship of time and money?
So one of the things is looking at, first of all, where you're trading your time. for money. Okay. This is where people get confused. And not everyone is in the world operating with. So I look at your life 24/7, your beingness is all connected and you have separation of work and pleasure, but your beingness is a consistent beingness. Most people's work beingness, or a majority of them, and their separate life, it's not the same. And so they're trading time for money, and that's a dangerous way to go. And so there is a trade-off, but we need to look at what are our high return on time activities, ROT. I have all my executive and corporate clients, entrepreneurs say, okay, where are my highest return on time activities where I have the most engagement, motivation, money making, make a list. And I also have them do a list of low return on time activities. And one of the biggest things I have them do is buy back their time. Offload that to assistants, to friends that can remove that so they have higher ROT time available so they can close the gap in their performance, get to where they're at, to where they want to go. When people hire me, it's for speed. And many for the same way for you. They're buying speed.
Yeah, I saw when reading Time Cleanse that it was buying acceleration and exponential growth.
Yes.
Which is speed.
Yes.
But on the ROT side, one of the other things I said in last question, I always wish my podcast was longer, but it's really important because one of the aspects of time that's most confusing and people don't realize the high effect and value of the ROT is the time we spent not in the conscious, but the time we spend in the subconscious and unconscious in two areas specifically that have changed my life is meditation and sleep.
Yep.
Right? Where do we place the value, that ROT, into meditation and sleep?
So big part of chapter 1, as you read, it talks about mindfulness, what I call timefulness, as we discussed. But there's a different quality, and this is a big distinction. So not all hours are the same. They are not the same. So a present hour has a 10x. So when we meditate, first of all, we start getting connected to our deepest being, what really is truly important to us. So taking the time to meditate allows us to be present. Now, I'm a TM meditator. I started in mindfulness, but I'm a Vedic meditator now. So I'm meditating twice a day for 20 minutes. And what that allows me to do is be centered in my beingness. Then that vibrates and multiplies who I am when I meet you or do a podcast or somebody at the coffee shop or a client. So there's what I call the compounding effect of time. So when you're in spirit, when you're motivated and aligned, you have a compounding effect. The opposite is a hangover. When we're doing things that aren't effective, they become a hangover. And so sleep also is the part of recovery. So when we connect those, we are at full 8 cylinders or 12 cylinders to actually manifest our highest self.
I think you're at 16 cylinders, Stephen. So, I knew this was going to go to. It's not like sitting on a stove interviewing you, my friend. It's
right,
like being with my beloved.
Exactly, yes, I feel the same way, Dave.
These minutes just flew by.
Yep.
But, this is my kind of book. I applaud you because it's not easy. In fact, my wife, one of the biggest frustrations that she has with me is I deal with time so much. And she goes, I just don't understand, and so many people don't understand time. So we have to be able to take the highest complex vibrating idea of time. And Einstein was beautiful with it. But the Time Cleanse, I think, is Einsteinian because it really develops a simple, mindful way to utilize our time with the highest ROT and also really change our lives. So I applaud you. You got to go buy it. Stephen Griffith, The Time Cleanse. This has been a very quick version in relativity. Thank you for joining Stephen Griffith and I on this week's Entrepreneurs, The Playbook.